This is WVVA in Focus, a weekly program about important issues and events in the two Virginias.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this edition of In Focus. I'm your host, Melinda Zosh. Right now, we are going to talk about music and a woman with many musical and written talents. Rachael Sage is an award-winning singer and songwriter, and she plays multiple instruments. She also writes poems. She is a 6-time Independent Music Award winner and has released more than a dozen albums. She is also the founder of her own label, MPress Records. I'd like to welcome Rachael to our show right now, and she's joining us via Zoom from Beacon, New York. Rachael, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me on your show.
You recently performed at the Millwall Theater in Wytheville, Virginia on Saturday, April 22nd, and you previewed material from your album, The Other Side, the first single from the album Whistleblow. That came out on Friday, April 21st. So this was a release show in Wytheville. Let's chat more about your new album. What inspired it?
Oh, thank you. It's called The Other Side, and you know, I feel like in a lot of ways when independent artists such as myself, we were emerging from lockdown, inevitably we were writing a lot of material focused on isolation and coming back to our lives in a new and different way, but in a very enthusiastic way. So I did that project already. That was my poetry record, Poetica. So this album is more just really relishing being back in the world, among people, being able to see loved ones in person and perform live in front of an actual audience. And so I've kind of like let the neurosis go from the shell shock of COVID and lockdown. And now I feel like this record is just about celebration, appreciation, and getting to the other side of any number of challenges that hopefully everyone can relate to when they listen.
Right. And what a great feeling it is to get to the other side of the pandemic or whatever challenges someone's facing, right? And Rachael, I went on your website, rachelsage.com. I listened to some of your music, including the 2022 single, Revelation Ground. Rachael, your voice is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. How would you describe your genre of music? Is it folk pop, or in your own words, what is it?
I do think of it as folk pop, but I also have a dance background from my youth. So I was a little baby ballerina and I went to School of American Ballet in New York City for many years. So I think a lot of that classical influence has also made its way into my piano playing in particular. And then, you know, I grew up on oldies from my dad and things like the Beatles and Elvis and Buddy Holly and Loretta Lynn. So all of that classic music and classical music sort of percolated, and apparently I am a bit of a throwback to the 60s and 70s. I didn't realize that, but you know, if you read your own reviews, eventually you hear what other people are saying. And I think that's because I'm just very focused on melody and a kind of traditional approach to pop songwriting.
Okay. I definitely got that vibe from your music, that 60s, 70s era. It's so cool. And Rachael, what instruments do you play?
I play guitar, but whoops, that's obnoxious. We're shutting off the phone. I play guitar. Sometimes I do use the cell phone as percussion on a record, but not today. And on my album Poetica, which is a spoken word release, I played all kinds of percussion, like jingle bells, I got them right in front of me, maracas, djembe, shakers, all kinds of things. So basically percussion, guitar, and piano.
Great. And what was the first instrument that you learned how to play?
Oh, definitely piano. I was very fortunate that even though I don't have musical parents, bless them, but they can't carry a tune, they had the foresight to have a piano in their living room just in case one of their daughters took to it. And it was pretty immediate for me. I remember that sensation of being 2.5, 3 years old and sitting on the edge of the piano bench with my legs dangling off. I couldn't reach the floor or the pedal. but hitting these keys and having this sound come out, and it just seemed like magic to me. So I think it is. I still think it is.
Yeah, and now the magic continues, and the performance at the Millwald is part of your Out of the Valley tour with Annalise and Ryan. So if our viewers haven't heard of them, they're a multi-instrumental Americana duo. So let's talk about your tour and the performances teaming up with them and the other upcoming tours in case folks would like to see you in person.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've done a few shows with them already. And our last one was in Beacon, where we both happen to live in the Hudson Valley in New York. And we just became fast friends and said, what the heck, why not do a whole tour together? So we've each booked a handful of shows and shared the workload, and now we get to play together. We'll do separate sets, but then we also do jam at the end, and we'll play some cover songs together. And I have a fantastic violinist with me. Her name is Kelly Halloran. And she's a fiddler, and she's just phenomenal.
And our viewers can go on rachelsage.com on your website, Rachel, if they'd like to see where else you might be stopping by and performing.
Exactly, yes. We'll be out till pretty much the end of the month.
Okay. And Rachel, you also write poems, so you're a multi-talented lady. What inspires you the most with all the forms of art you produce, whether it be writing, music, or something else?
You know, to be honest, I have thought about this in kind of a morbid way sometimes. Like if I, had to have only one of my senses, which thing would be the thing that would carry me through this life? And it's a hard choice to make. Hopefully I'll never have to make it. But I feel like in a lot of ways that painting, which is something I love to do as well, painting and music are the same thing for me, and for the way that I am expressive for my brain. I can tell stories in both of those mediums, and I feel like they also can create an environment and a mood and a sense of place and time that hopefully will transport the listener or the viewer. Poetry is also a love of mine, but it's a little bit more subconscious. So when I'm really, just kind of pent up with something I'm feeling, it will come out in the form of a poem.
Great. Well, you're definitely multi-talented, and we appreciate you sharing your forms of art with the world, Rachel.
Thank you. I have fun with it. That's the bottom line. If you're not enjoying yourself,
Yeah, if you're not enjoying yourself, find something else to do.
That's right. Yeah.
Well, we have to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Thank you.
Welcome back to this edition of In Focus, everyone. This morning we're talking to award-winning singer and songwriter Rachael Sage. She recently performed at the Millwald Theater in Wytheville, Virginia. And Rachel, as I mentioned earlier, you're a woman of many talents. So let's start from the beginning. So what inspired you to become a singer-songwriter from the very beginning?
Well, it's going to sound like a cliche, but I really didn't have a choice. It just kind of called to me. And even from a very young age, I was writing little songs and making up things. And I guess I was always a bit of a ham. But more than that, I just, my parents used to joke I was like 4 going on 40. And I had all these deep things I wanted to say. And it just was the best format for me to express myself. So I'm grateful that pop radio existed and classical music I heard in dance, and all of it just kind of fused to give me a life path. So how lucky am I?
Very lucky. 4 going on 40, that sounds like it could be a movie in the works or something. I like it. Well, you also founded your own label, MPress Records. So that sounds like quite the endeavor. How did you do that?
Yes, I was young and naive, and between us and your listeners, I didn't quite know how much work it would be, but it has been an amazing adventure, a labor of love. And I was just, I guess I was a little overconfident. I thought, well, listen, I can either go with a major label and they'll tell me what to do and how to dress and who to be and what kind of music to make, or I can continue to be the happy control freak that I am and be independent. So that's the upshot. And then the rest of it, you learn as you go. You make a lot of mistakes, you lean on a lot of really creative and insightful people who mentor you. And hopefully after 20 years of doing this, I kind of have the hang of it, but I'm always learning.
That's great. A woman after my own heart, independent. I like that. Well, Rachel, I understand you're based out of the New York City area, so let's chat more about what inspires you as an artist living in the Big Apple.
Oh, I love that. Well, that's very apropos that you should ask, because just today I was actually working on some new visual art that is inspired by the graffiti all around me in the East Village. And I've lived in the village for about 20 years. I also go between Hudson Valley, upstate New York, and New York City now. So I have both sides of that coin, the frenetic, fast-paced, high energy of Manhattan with all its beautiful diversity and eclecticism, and then upstate, which is, it's a whole other pace. It's like a big, deep breath. The beautiful mountain and the chirping birds, but I love that contrast. So it all inspires me. I'm pretty easy that way. I get inspired just sitting in a coffee shop and eavesdropping on someone's conversation.
Yeah, I definitely understand. Like, you can just absorb the inspiration in the environment you're in. So Rachel, let's chat more about what it's like being on the road and performing. You were in Austin, Texas back in March, Charleston, West Virginia,
Yes.
here in the Mountain State, and also Wytheville. And you're also headed to the United Kingdom this year. That's so cool. Let's talk more about that.
Sure. Oh, it just feels so great to be back in the tour saddle. It's my favorite thing to do, is to travel around and be a bard in this way. Basically, that's what I am. And to enliven these songs that I recorded in the studio with something different every night. They're never the same. I do kind of take a little bit of a cue from jazz in that respect. I improvise a lot. But yes, we were at South by Southwest in Austin, which was really crowded and energized and intense. And then, as you said, we played Mountain Stage, which was just such an honor. I've been a fan of that show for so many years. And to get to meet Kathy Mattea and find out that she's as kind and warm as she is gifted, it was exciting. So now, as you know, we're going to be on the road with Annalise and Ryan. And then I do go to the UK in late May, early June, and it's my home away from home. Love the UK. For those of you out there who may be considering going overseas for a vacation, I highly recommend it. It's got the whole, urban thing, but there's beautiful countryside. If you drive a little bit out of London, you can see goats and chickens.
Oh.
And then the Tower of London in one day.
Oh, it sounds picturesque. I hope you have a great time in the UK. And Rachel, we'd love to hear 2 of your original songs. So what's your first song you're going to play with us?
I'm going to play Whistle Blow, which is coming out very, very soon, mere days. So I'm excited for this single release. Look me up and down, you tell me like it is. You're not afraid to cry, and you're not afraid to kiss. You look me up and down, you tell me what you want. You're not afraid to charm, and you're not afraid to flaunt. But in the middle of the night, I can hear your voice singing, don't look back, you have a choice. In the middle of the night, I can hear that whistle blow loud. The definition stands, the hero is a man. He lifts you from the fire, pulls you from the quicksand. The definition stands, the woman is at heart. And learning to be heard is a Herculean art. But in the middle of the night, I can hear your voice singing, don't look back, you have a choice. In the middle of the night, I can hear that whistle blown loud. Look me up and down, tell me like it is. You're not afraid to cry and you're not afraid to kiss. You look me up and down, tell me what you want. You're not afraid to charm and you're not afraid to flaunt. But in the middle of the night, I can hear your voice singing, don't look back, you have a choice. In the middle of the night, I can hear that whistle blown loud.